Yes. All right, guys, y'all ready? I'm going to get this started. So first off, I want to thank y'all for coming here, and I think you guys are going to get a lot of great information. I will ask you all to please be quiet when we're going through this, because first off, we want to respect Spencer and Robbie for coming here and doing this for us. This is on their own time. So there's a Spencer Hall. Spencer is the fire chief of Benito Fire Department, and Robbie Hall, he's the assistant fire chief of Benito Fire Department. So once again, we thank you guys for coming here and doing this for us. So again, we just want to make sure that everybody's kind of quiet. We will do what you guys answered or ask some questions for them to answer and everything. If you would, again, respect whoever's answering it or asking the questions. Respect these guys while they're answering it, because what normally happens in all this kind of stuff is, you know, we might get someone talking over here, and whoever's sitting next to them might want to hear the answer to that question, and they don't get the answer, so we end up going back over and have to answer or ask it and answer again. So we try and all get out here at a decent time. There might be some things that we decide that we will push on to another time to answer the questions. I think, you know, there's just been a lot of, from what I've heard and what I know now, there's been a lot of misinformation out there. And so hopefully these guys can help clarify for you all a little bit. So first off, I'd like to introduce, let's introduce Robbie. First, Robbie Hall, stand up and kind of tell everybody about yourself, how long you've been doing this. And
my name's Robbie. I've been in the fire service for 44 years. 24 of it was paid through Reynosa. I retired out in 04, battalion chief. I've been with the Benito Fire District for 27 years, and I've been the assistant chief the entire time. I run operations, so he runs.
I can say, okay, so first off, I ended up joining, about 3 or 4 months ago, something like that, and this guy's a lot smarter than he looks. I have learned a lot from Robbie just from him talking to us and stuff. So both of these guys are wealth of knowledge. So, okay, Spencer.
Hello, I'm Spencer Baldwin, Chief of the Benito Fire Department. I do also used to work for Reynosa Fire under him. So I'm really versed. Big guy. Same thing, I've been in for over 30 years, been with Benito since 2000. We don't really have an agenda. We were just asked to come and speak with you guys, so please, if you have questions, be sure to ask them. There is a rumor that I'm trying to take over Alto and make it all paid, and we're going to take it all over. That is a rumor. It's just, I've heard a lot of rumors over the past 6 months that most of them are not true. So you hear something, you know. You guys did want to talk about a little bit about Firewise stuff. Whether Robbie kind of expand on that. It's actually pretty good. Are you actually a Firewise community yet? Or are you still trying to work for the third time? I think there's 4 communities in this area. Reynosa has 2. Rex's or Sanchera is in 1.
2 years into theirs.
Right. So it'd be good. It'd be good if you guys can get it. I'm fairly knowledgeable about the insurance service organization and ISO stuff. I won't say I'm an expert because, especially right now, their rules are changing. And they're starting to implement some more wildland stuff into their grading process. But I'll be glad to answer any questions about how we're graded, how we're funding, how insurance impacts the homeowners, and how you guys, as homeowners, can help with your own ISO insurance or ISO. It helps our rating with your effort.
So I think that's a good place to start. You know, you and I talked extensively about this, and you kind of explained how the ISO ratings work, what the insurance companies think of the ISO ratings, where we're at, and what happens if we open up another fire station here.
Okay. Is there any insurance agents in here? Okay, now it's on. Now, the ISO is designed as a way to, there's a better wording for it, to grade our fire departments. We are graded, if you want to use that word, on how many personnel we have, our training level, much training we do a year, how much water is accessible in our district, how many trucks we have, the equipment that's on the trucks, we have to have a certain amount of equipment on there. Stations. How many stations we have, our response time, our water flow, that's why we have to do hydrant testing, how much water is available, how much pressure puts out, how we do those testing.
How large are the district?
Excuse me?
How large are the district?
Yeah, how large the district is. There's a lot of different variables involved in it. Water is 40% of our grade out of 100. So water is everything. You guys up here are hydrant, so that is kudos to you. That is a huge asset to us on our grade. So ISO, when a brand new department starts, it starts as an ISO 10. Maybe one person, one fire truck, a little shed, that's a 10. So every new department starts as a 10, no matter how much equipment they have for the first year. After that, the insurance service organization officer comes down and grades the department. They go through this whole list. From there, they determine on some magical equation, which is way beyond my math, to figure out where you rank. 10 is, I don't want to say the lowest. It's not the worst department, it's just the lowest grade. All the way up to an ISO 1, which is El Paso, Albuquerque Fire, Phoenix Fire Department. These huge departments are ISO 1s. Ruidoso was a 2, a 3.
No, yeah, they're at 3.
They're 3 now. They made it to a 2, but now they're back to a 3. So it's very hard to get these ratings. It's really hard on a volunteer department, mainly because of training. They require 40 hours a month of driver's training. We work for a living. So a lot of that stuff, it doesn't matter if you're paid or volunteer, it's across the board. So it's really hard for us as volunteers to get lower and lower and lower, especially the training, because we work. It's hard for us to get our response times faster because we come from home. So all that is graded into it. Your Firewise communities, it doesn't really affect the ISO on our side, it's affected on your insurance side. So that. The lower our ISO, there's a myth that the lower your ISO, the cheaper your insurance is going to be. Okay, that's true to a point. It depends on your insurance company. So insurance companies can buy into this ISO program. I don't know what they pay, but they can buy into it and get the information to find out how good is Benito Firefighter. But my insurance doesn't have to buy into it, but they can still get that information and grade your insurance off of that. So they don't have to. We don't have to go down to a 2 and say, oh, your insurance is going to get cheaper. They don't have to follow that. So that's a myth. That it's a grading, it's a way for them to grade if they want to lower your insurance or not. They always find a way not to. The other problem around with ISO right now is they're starting to implement the wildland side into it. We don't even know all the rules to it yet. There's a sheet that I looked at several months ago. Excuse me, that they grade us. You get deducted if you have power lines above the ground. Okay, we don't have any control over that. You don't have much control over that. But we get deducted a point for that. We get deducted if our roads aren't 12 feet wide. Some of the roads are very big enough for a truck. You get deducted if it's not big enough cul-de-sac for a fire truck. There's a lot of things in there that most places, don't have we don't have any control over. So I just want you to know that that's going to be part of the grading process. That people say, well, how come they're not a 5 yet? How come they're not a 4 yet? Well, we're 6 now. Yeah, we are 6 right now. There's a lot of variables in there that we have no control over. So hopefully we'll start learning more about that, and hopefully that one day that they'll finally realize that that's not very fair. But insurance is insurance. They're going to find a way to either help or hurt you, one way or the other. So we're doing our best. We're 6. Yes, ma'am.
What does ISO stand for?
Insurance Service Organization.
Thank you.
Yes. We're 6 right now. We hoping this summer we're going to be evaluated again. And so far everything looks good. We should at least go to a 5. if not a 4, at least a 5. Other areas that impact us, Spencer Theater. Anything over 3 stories high, we're supposed to have a ladder truck. A ladder truck, you're looking at $1 million with nothing on it. It's just a $1 million empty truck. So funding with fire departments, it's hard to get that stuff to lower ISO. You have to spend money to help you save money. That's also where our funding comes from. Our funding comes from the state fire marshal's office. And for each, it's about $20,000 each time we step down. We go from a 6 to a 5, we gain about another 20 grand. Each fire station you get, each main station, which has to have a meeting room in it and 3 trucks, that constitutes the main station. We get about $25,000 a year. We have 3 main stations right now. We don't have any substations. Substation is only about $15,000 a year that we get funded for. So that's where our funding comes from. Our funding comes from the ISO grading. That's why we push for it. We push to get lower and lower and lower. But like I said, it costs us a lot of money. We buy stuff just because that sheet says we have to have it on our truck. I never use it. I've never used one before in our life. But we had to buy it to get the points for it.
So California uses it.
Yeah,
And it's nationwide, guys. It's not just us.
right.
It goes from East Coast to West Coast. So it's not dependent on where you're located in the world. It's only one rating system. And Southwest is a whole lot different than the Northeast.
Questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that Redosa was a 2 and now it's a 3.
Yes, sir.
What changed?
I am not exactly sure what
They
changed.
lost the ladder.
Ladder truck?
Yeah, because it went out of service. They parked it right there.
So they got named for not having a ladder truck.
And that's a big point.
That's a lot of points on the whole scale of it. Waters are number 1. Water is the main thing. Like I said, we don't really have to worry about it here because you have a water system, so we get great points there. As long as we keep checking the hydrants and doing flow tests on it every year, every 3 years.
You said that, when we were talking, you said that Songterra, we're having an issue out there because they don't have water, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And also kind of let them know the state of our department and the training everybody's doing and, you know, how much more recognized Bonito is and kind of give them some
Okay.
information about Bonito.
So I said we're in ISO 6. We're in ISO 6X. The X part is the areas that don't have water. They don't have water systems, so we have to haul our water there. So we actually have trucks with 3,000 gallons of water, 1,500 gallons, 2,000 gallons that we haul there. We get credit for it, but it's not the same as having a hydrant system. So if you ask your insurance company and they tell you, yeah, they're 66X, that's those areas that don't have the water. And it's a good deduction actually. We would like to have water systems everywhere, but can't. You want me to mention about Bonito Fire Department? I found out last Tuesday, we did average around 30 members for years. It goes up and down. After the fire, we got the big influx of volunteers that joined us, and now we're up to 47. We're the largest department in the county. We run more fire calls than anybody else in the county, including Redosa. Redosa runs a lot of EMS calls. That's where most of their call volume comes from. But if you put down fire to fire, we run more fire calls. And that includes fire alarms. We run a lot of fire alarm calls. Please check your fire alarm systems. Please make sure the person at your fire alarm company knows if it's a false alarm to call and cancel. So we run a lot. Probably what? 5 a week. Easily more. Easily. Our trainings, we have one dedicated night for training. We have 2 meetings a month, the first and third Tuesday of every month. But we train on both of them. But our second Tuesday is just strictly training. There's no business, not much business involved in that at all. We try to get everybody up to wildland certified, which is, they call it the S130-190 class. It's basic wildland firefighting. Really push our department to have everybody at least have that, whether they fight fire or not, they at least have that training. Benito, and actually most of the county, but really Benito has quite a unique system here. We butt up against the Forest Service, we butt up against BLM. We also have state forestry districts being in municipality, unincorporated area. We fall under them. And I've been around the state, and most of the places don't have the working relationship like we do. Robbie and I and 4 or 5 other members of our department all came from Ruidoso. We worked with the Forest Service before. We worked with state forestry before. We have a great working relationship. There's times that we'll pull up on a fire in the forest. We're the incident commander. We're in charge of that fire for the Forest Service until we actually transfer. Other places, they said, nope, it's the forest, there's the line, we're done. Let them show up. They've even incident command on some of our fires, just because we work so well together. And it's a great relationship that we have here. And it's worked very well. And I'm telling you, it's not everywhere in the state. It's really good here how we all work together.
So what are you doing to go from a 6 to a 5?
We look at what, we have to maintain everything we've been doing. So every 3 years we have to do hydrant testing, hydrant testing. And if we only do it, say we haven't done it in 5 years, we've only done it once in 5 years, that's minus so many points. If we can show that we've done it every 3 years, then we get the max points. So there's a scale in there as far as minimum and max. And it's meeting that max points is what's hard, especially as volunteers. And I keep saying volunteers, and it's not a crutch. It's just really hard when we all work every day and trying to fit this in the schedule, trying to get it all done. Water, like we have several water tenders, and we get points for that, but we get deducted because it takes us a while to get from the station to the fire, and then from the fire back to a hydrant to fill up and come back. So there are tricks and trades, ways to get around that, but it's just getting it done and maintaining it is the hardest part. Air packs, the breathing apparatus we wear right now, ours are right on the edge of being outdated, and new standards came out. So I put in for a grant to replace all of ours. We didn't get the grant. Is there any grant writers here? I will give you a heck of a raise right now. I'll pay you what I get paid. We were looking at replacing 30 air packs and with spare bottles. It was $299,000 to do that. It's about $6,000 an air pack. We have to replace all of them. So right now I just look at replacing 15, and that's going to run me about 121 grand. So it's very expensive, and we have to have that to keep our points. So
one thing a lot of people don't realize, like these new volunteers we got in, it takes about $10,000 just to outfit them in their safety gear in our world. It's expensive. They're proud of it. They charge you out the meaning for it. So every time we get a new person, it's about 10 grand right off the bat. So that's where a lot of our money goes, just trying to keep our volunteers up in their gear and safely and functioning properly. That's before we even train.
Where does all your funding come from?
The fire marshal, state fire marshal's office.
It all comes from the state?
Yes.
Right,
We do
so-
have some volunteer budgets, some donation budgets, nonprofit, but 90% of our funding that we use for fire department related equipment comes from the state fire marshal's office, and that's our ISO grading.
Yeah, it all comes together.
More.
The better ISO, the lower your ISO, the more money you get per department. So that's why we're always striving to go down. It's kind of backwards, but you're not striving to go up, you're striving to go down. And so each time we step a grade, we get like 25,000 more per station. So if we go down in the spring, like we're hoping to, our next budget come July will be 75,000 more than it is right now. But like I said, that 75,000 don't go very far.
And right now I'm open about it. I have about $1 million budget is what about where we run. And we use just about every penny of that to keep everything working. Yes, ma'am.
So you have, say, 10 people that want to volunteer, and you've got to outfit.
Yes.
Do you send that info to the state office, the fire marshal,
No.
asking for a little more in your budget,
No.
or do you just?
If you could talk the governor into taking it to the floor and getting it passed, but every year, fire departments from all over the state take it to legislature, and every year it gets turned out.
Right.
No,
we don't get any
it's
more.
all done from the
So
government.
the public can turn away.
No, we don't turn away anybody. Everybody has a job. And not everybody wants to fight fire. Some just want to help with the books. Some just want to help with outside of the fire, getting food or pulling hose or something. So there's a job for everybody. Not everybody needs the $6,000 bunker gear. There are other tricks. There's a new set out. It's called dual purpose gear. It's basically like the outer line that you see on firefighters. It's not the whole inner stuff, just the outer line. It's approved for wildland fires. It's approved for car wrecks. It's approved for outside of the fire. And so we buy a lot of that because not everybody goes inside the fire, inside the hot zone. Those that are qualified, that we've trained up to that point, that's where we spend the $6,000. So we're very budget wise. We don't just, unless you spend that much for everybody. But yes, one person, if you're wanting to do structural firefighting, from head to toe, it's $6,000 right out the door. The air packs we all share, so we don't have an air pack for everybody. But we do have enough masks for everybody. So there's another $7,500 for those. So it's very expensive. Anything fire related. Pocket knife you buy at Walmart for $15 is now $75 because it's in fire. So, yes.
Another question about hybrids, when you talk about hybrids, how many are there in Alto like Country Club?
See, I was not prepared for that question.
I know you know that.
I did not know off the top of my head.
Just right at 300. So back when we did the Alto water system that y'all are on now, I was on that meeting and then that board too. And I pushed for getting hydrants all the way down every road. And this was 10 years ago. I can't even think of the man's name now, but I think he's passed away since then. I believe Alto spent a little over $4.5 million, and we got the water system down High Mesa. We got the water system down a few of the larger branch roads. We got it down Deer Park, all the way down to Deer Valley. At one time, we weren't going to take it to Deer Valley. So it's not in all of it's not on every road like ISO would give you the maximum points for. It's mainly on the main thoroughfares because that was a lot of money back then, and that was like 10 years ago or so. And so right now, if I recall, it's like 340 something hydrants from Highway 48 all the way to the back of all of these areas that we did put water in. Because if you notice, some of the roads, like some of the main thoroughfares, they don't have hydrant systems on them. It's all on the main roads up in the upper part of Alto. So that's
It's very beneficial. I know on my street, there's one at the very end of the street, which is like a mile down there or maybe further. But it's one of those little itty skinny ones. How beneficial is that actually in fighting fire?
little skinny ones that has one on it, or is it just the standpipe that comes
It's
out?
just little stem pipe.
Okay, the standpipes we can hook to, but it's not that beneficial because the last time I hooked to one, I sucked it closed and it sprung a leak, so we weren't able to use it. So about the only ones I have my crew hooked to now are the actual fire plugs, the big ones. Now we do have, I know that I got a small one right at the corner of Broadmoor and Pinehurst. That little one that stands there, that one's still good. I've hooked to that one before. And I think we got another little one somewhere down off of Stable and El Camino, somewhere down in there. And I hooked to that one before. The others I have not hooked to. So, but just the pipes coming out, because we used to also have the big pipes that we drive under. I don't know how long y'all been in this neighborhood, but there was actually one right down here in the corner of Deer Park and French that came from the top, and you could fill the truck from the top. But that was many years ago. All of those are gone now. I think pretty much it was snowplow, everybody's kind of wiping them out. So, but right now we just mainly hook to the main ones because those little ones, they give so little flow, and every time we try to use them, they usually fracture and
Yes, ma'am.
So if we had a lab, if you had a lab, how would that affect our IS? Right,
I don't exactly remember how many points we did. I think it's like 9, somewhere 9 or 10 points.
right now we're like 5 away from the 5. Oh, we were. I think we've closed that gap because now we have a service truck. We also have 16.
Right.
So how many points does it take in between to become a 5, a 4? How many points is that?
I don't know, that's changed like 3 times in my
Yeah,
career.
it's around 50. It does change. And it, without having the scale in front of me, it's kind of hard to explain. I even have a hard time understanding exactly how they grade you, how you move down. But from our last one several years ago, we were about 50 points away from moving down another step. So with the water system, a ladder truck would definitely help that because we get deducted because it's Spencer Theater. Because a commercial structure with 3 stories and we don't have a ladder truck. So I don't say we get deducted, we just don't get points for it. And more points you get, the more all that stuff. As far as the hydrants, water pressure is a big thing. Sustaining that water pressure. We have to, especially with some commercial buildings that we do have in this area, we have to figure out the fire flow, how much water will it take, how much water can we sustain for an hour, or 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, to put that structure out if it was fully involved. So the water pressure has a lot to do with it.
The cool thing about that is Steve, the guy that runs the water, is it Steve?
David.
Yeah, he's real good because that computer system y'all got, the state fire marshal guy loves it because you can literally go in on his computer and you can find every hydrant, every pressure, every flow right there. So it's a great system y'all got, and it does help us out tremendously. The only thing is, it's just here in Alto, we still got Sun Valley, Cedar Creek, Alpine Village, Sunterra, all the way up to Nito, and all the way down to Fort Stanton to deal with.
Is there more than one building that requires other than the
Spencer.
Spencer? Is there
Mainly Spencer Theater because it's over 3 stories. This one, it would definitely benefit here because of the square footage, the fire load. So we are looking at one. We've been talking about it. It's a lot. There's a lot of departments that do it. There's a lot of departments that just end up buying a used ladder truck just so they can help with their ISO points. But when they use ladder truck, comes every 15 years you have to replace it. So there's a lot of caveats to it. Could we use one? We could definitely use one.
Looks like how you're telling me, like, not only for like Spencer, but on some of these roads where the houses are way up.
Oh yeah, it's beneficial. It's just, it would make our lives easier in some ways, but we're still gonna fight fire without it.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You use what
It's definitely beneficial, but then again, it also could hurt us because every time a ladder truck goes out, you're supposed to have 6 people on board.
Right.
Every time an engine goes out, there's a regular fire engine, you're supposed to have 4 people on board.
Well, that's why we try and keep our numbers so high, kind of like what you're doing, because we are the largest department in the county. We do run the most engine apparatus and, well, we run most everything, the rescue, everything. We have the only heavy rescue in the county. We have 3 engines, 3 tenders, 3 attack trucks, and 5 type 6s now, 1 type 7, and 3, 4 rescues. So we run a lot of equipment. And we have a lot of equipment, and it all passes every year. We have to test it. That's kind of my job. I test it every year, so it all passes inspections and all of that. And so, but we have to have a certain amount of people available for all of that equipment. if that makes sense.
When we, I don't know, I've got a head bottle washer.
He's our general manager, was talking
Yeah, I
about.
meant before.
So, yeah, I see done it all to the fail. In the last couple of fires, we've engaged Jeff Stanovich and his boys
Yes.
to be on property. Does that get in your way? Is that a help to you?
So
I don't want to do it if it's a hindrance.
it's a large help because one is, it's a large help using Jeff. Let me narrow that down a little bit. There's a lot of companies now that insurance companies are sending fire crews out to deal with these fires, and they have a tendency not to check in. So like, when we broke this fire, everybody that was assigned to me and everybody was assigned to him, we have to keep accountable. Accountability is a big thing in my world, in his world. So the cool thing about Jeff is Jeff came up to me, I just sucked him right into the vacuum and we went to work. He has our radios, he knows what we're doing, he knows our qualifications. So now we also during this fire got a few companies from, like, they send fire apparatus from who knows where. These guys don't always tie in. They just report to an address and protect this home. The bad thing is we've already over the years have lost a few of those guys because they don't enter in the loop. They don't have the right radio frequencies. They don't follow direction. When I tell everybody we're leaving, we're leaving, and if they don't get told to leave, there's a good chance they could get burned over and killed. So by that means, yes, Jeff is a big help as long as he stays within the elements of the fire command staff, and that works out pretty well.
If we could, having him here on more than just need to have it during fire season, would that help the fire rating, the insurance rating?
No.
It won't help at all. It will help on your response, but then I cannot add him to my response time because he's not within our department, so we don't have to write the same report that we do. Okay, but for y'all's benefit, the amount of money that y'all paid him to do patrols with him and his staff, by all means, because I'm not gonna downgrade that guy for saying, because the first thing he's gonna do is say, hey, we got a grass fire, Robbie, and I'm gonna turn around and get us all rolling, and we're literally gonna tie in with his crew and go to work just like we would with, some other fire department, Ridoso or NoGal or whoever. So by all means, by putting him on, it's just kind of better for y'all. As far as helping you out insurance wise, no, but helping you out knowing that you got Jeff and his crew patrolling the neighborhoods looking for smoke on windy days, by all means, yes. That's a big save for y'all because fires are easy when they're small. When they're not so easy.
The other thing about Jeff is Jeff clears, him and his guys clear when there's not a fire.
Right.
And so that is one of the things that attracted to me.
Yes.
So I'm gonna pay them to be here, that when there's not a fire, they're clearing up our common ground and getting into and cleaning up if we have a lot, something.
And me and Jeff communicate a lot. We talk
He
about
speaks
every
very
one.
highly, I got to know Jeff, he speaks very highly of that.
And so, yeah, by all means, he's gonna, and then like when those red flag days come, those windy days, and we're in hot, dry, windy fire weather, obviously they're gonna shut down the saws and start doing patrols, by all means, that's a bonus for this community to be able to pay somebody to do that. And it doesn't hurt our feelings at all. I mean, if y'all.
I just didn't want you to be in conflict between.
No, there is no
It
conflict.
seemed to me, until you ask the question.
Right, just the only, like I said, and I don't really have a conflict with these other insurance companies sending in trucks to protect like this $1 million home that they're insuring. That's great. Just don't forget to tie in because, as y'all see, things can happen quick and we have to move quick and if I'm not knowing that they're there and I leave them, that's me. I'm the one that has to take the blame for that death. And so, I'm real adamant about making sure that if we get those kind of people, they do tie in with me when we do break a fire that we have to manage.
And most of them are there for that specific house.
Right, they won't leave that house.
Yeah, they're not gonna help us fight a fire, they're just gonna protect that house and that house only.
And I'm good with that. I mean, I'm not paying them, they're good, but I still gotta be able to communicate with them and say, okay, this is what we're doing, and now we're all coming out, and you have to come with us.
If there's a house on fire right next to it, they're just gonna sit there and watch it burn.
Probably not,
You're
but they're hired to specifically protect my house and not yours. So, yes. You got a question?
Yeah, through the grapevines, we heard that you guys may at some point not be a volunteer fire department. Is that in the works? What can you tell us about
As far
that?
as going to paid,
What?
as far as going to the paid department?
Yeah,
Yes, that's in the grapevine, and yes, a lot of it is a rumor. We have been trying to have a paid fire department for years. When we built that station, we built it for the future and in mind of hopefully someday having paid staff. There's bedrooms upstairs, there's a kitchen, same with Sonterra Station out there on Airport Road, it's about the same way. Hopefully one of these days we can, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot. Excuse me?
How much?
I don't exactly know.
what does it
But-
take? Like, what's the process of doing that?
If we would do this through the county, for every, and we're not talking officer pay, I'm talking strictly firefighter pay, you're talking somewhere around $120,000 a year per individual firefighter. Okay, so they're not going to be making $120,000. Firemen don't make that much, trust me. Yeah, you have to have a lot of jobs to be a fireman, I'll tell you that right now. But the way the taxes work, so a firefighter is a whole different world than the whole 40-hour week person. You don't get overtime until you're over 106 hours. And that's just the way it is. They don't deal with 40 hours, they don't deal with 80 hours, everything's on a 106-hour pay day. The thing about that is these firefighters, once you put into the retirement, the way that PERA, the Public
Employee
Retirement of
Association.
New Mexico, so like as the county, if they were to hire a pagan, they have to put in like 75% of their retirement, where the firefighters only pay 25%. Okay, same way with insurance. So health insurance, once you put on paid service, you have to provide that person, that is a law by New Mexico, you have to provide them insurance. Same way, the individual that's paying them pays 75%, the firefighter has a minimum pay out of his paycheck. And that's how that works. That's why that per person is so high, even though this guy's making 40 grand a year. 40, 50 grand is it, and so it's pretty tough.
And don't you need 4 per station? Isn't that, I mean, I've heard of it. I'm just trying to
The more you have, the more we do. I mean,
Right.
ideally, yeah, if you're looking at 4 per station per shift, yeah, that's a good fire crew coming out. They are self-managed, they can run. I literally sit down with the county and I'm like, give me 1 per shift, because 1 per shift means I got a engine rolling out of that station right now. I can meet him on scene. If it's halfway between here and my house, I can meet him there. Spencer can meet him there. All the other 40 volunteers we have can meet him there and go to work. So it all depends, Right now, Rios is up to 9, and they still went up to 9, so they're at 9 per shift. When I left, we were at 7 per shift.
Right.
So in 20 plus years, because I retired 20 years ago, they went up 2 million per shift since I left Rios. And their ISO went up 1 notch. So, yeah, there's no guarantees. I mean,
there's no guarantees, but it'd be a benefit to you though, right?
Yes.
If you had somebody there.
Yes.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, and we would need at least 6. If we work 24 on, 48 off, there's 2 people on one shift, and they switch, and then you have to have at least a relief person to help cover.
You gotta remember, you guys have vacation time and sick leave, and this is all under New Mexico state law.
That'd be a minimum of 6 people that we would have to hire.
But
Preferably.
one nice part. Isn't there, I mean, we've got a fireman that's up, retired, Houston, who's actually zooming in and listening. And he was telling me that he had some experience with a hybrid system where it was a combination of.
Yes, we talked about that, so,
Yes.
there's lots of different ways to do it, there's paid on call, there's paid different ways, so in other words, like, some of our staff, let's just say they work a 40-hour job and their day off is Tuesday, Thursday, I don't know, whatever. And on that Tuesday, Thursday, they say, okay, I'll come and call for the day. So for a day, they get a little bit of a day, not like a total fireman would, but they do get a little bit of extra pay, you know, for making sure that every call that day is covered right away. You know, that's one system. There's lots of different ways around the country you can write it up. But yeah, there's lots of different hybrid ways, but if y'all can talk to the county and give us money, I'm not.
The combination is usually how we start.
But you said the county to give you money, but you said you get paid through the state, so I mean.
Okay, so the county is our fiscal agent. Okay, we have to follow the federal guidelines of procurement. So we just don't get to go spend our money building it. We have to get 3 prices. We have to go under buying anything, just like we do under any federal, county municipal agent. So they are our fiscal agent. So the state fire marshal sends them our money. They put it into a budget. We do all of our fuel purchases, our truck purchases, anything we purchase has to go under PO and ran through the county fiscal agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So all of that money, and that money, like any state fire money, can't be used for personnel. If you want to put personnel on, it has to come out of the county budget, period. Ain't no ifs or buts about it. So like Redoso's paid guys, they get a budget from the state fire marshal too, but that's their operating budget. That pays for fuel, trucks, tires, hose, bunker gear, stuff like that. All of their salary comes out of the village of Redoso's pocket.
Okay, so that's, right. So it would come from the county taxes for you, because you're not billed.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, all right, I'm just trying to get it clear.
Right. And we would start more likely as a combination department, like you said, 1 or 2 guys on duty at a time, and then the rest of the volunteers come and meet on scene or go get another truck and then we come to scene. That'd be the easiest way to start, rather than just trying to hire 9 personnel right off the bat, $3 to $4 million like that, and the county doesn't have that, so.
What you said, like I said,
Right.
then you got somebody leaving from your station, y'all have to go there, pick up the truck.
Correct, yes. That's always a bonus.
Okay.
Like I said, that meeting's on Thursday, but I already know the answer. I've been on the commissioner's spot for months, years.
Is there any idea, have any idea, if you did man full-time, will our insurance be much more readily available?
No, I can't. I can tell you that it'll help in a couple of different areas. For one, our response time will be faster. So we get like 1/4 of a point for that, or whatever the scale is. I'm not exactly sure. They would be able to do the hydrant testing more frequently. It's easier for somebody that's paid to just go out there and do it, rather than trying to get 4 or 5 volunteers together and match our schedules to get it done. So there's little things like that that'll help, but it won't be a drastic change. Yeah, it won't be a drastic change, but it does give us extra points. Their training, they can sit there at the station and watch videos and log their training, and they can go drive 40 hours a month.
But as far as paid versus volunteer, they don't care.
There's not a difference.
There's not a firefighters or firefighters.
So if you were there at the station and you drove 40 hours a month and we got that much 1/8 of a point because you did that, and the other volunteers didn't meet that. So
I
we
guess
still need
I was
one.
I guess I was under the impression the insurance companies looked at whether or not the fire station is man versus volunteer. That was
No.
my impression.
No.
All they look at that response
They
time.
took their matrix, however they designed this, let's just say New York City Fire Department. 1,000 firefighters, a million trucks and all this stuff. They took their matrix that says, okay, you should be able to get out of the station in this much time, you should be able to get on scene within this much time, from the station to the, whatever, the structure fire. They don't count wildland there, just structure fire. You should have all this stuff. We don't care if you're paid volunteer, we don't care if you're time people in your department, or 1,000. It's the same across the board. So the departments with $20 million budgets and 1,000 personnel, it's a lot easier. For us with 47 people that are all volunteer on a small budget, it's a lot harder, but we're all rated the same. It's not fair. I'll just say it, it's not fair at all, but that's the way it is. That's what we have to do.
But yeah, firefighters and look up to paid volunteer. Well, what they look for is response time. And the ideal response time you're looking for is 5 to 7 minutes. So that means I gotta get up from my house, get dressed at 2 AM, drive up to the station, grab the truck, warm it up, get it out, and be at your house in 7 minutes. It ain't gonna happen.
And then it's a false fire alarm.
So we do have ways that we shorten this up a lot quicker, because we do have guys that live close to the station. They know that that's their first response. I go direct, so sometimes that helps because it shortens that time a little bit for us. You know, so a lot of these, almost every fire call I go direct, but it kind of, well, just finding the place is big. You know, at 3 AM in a snowstorm, finding 1008 French Drive, and then you come to find out we can't get to it from the top, because the top's closed, we gotta go to the bottom, and yeah, so all these roads are, you know, and then I'm like, nope, we can't take that truck, we gotta go back and get this truck, that one's not gonna make it, you know. There's a lot of caveats to that, yes.
Thank you. So, but, and you got it right, it's a great fire department, we're so blessed to have you so close. But it's not a guarantee that we will get you. Is that correct?
Guarantee that you'll get me? No.
Maybe it's fire. But right where I heard that fire, your group was sent to readjust that, and no guarantee. Which I
hear a lot about it.
Well, that's construction fire.
So we're mandated to protect our district.
Okay.
So if we're requested to go to Rios and help them with some large fire, large incident, we're still mandated to protect our district. So we have to call MoGal or a neighboring department, say, you need to either come up and sit in our station or listen up, be ready to roll to make sure that we're still covered. We usually leave somebody in our district.
Yeah, in 27 years, I have never, ever stripped this district. I didn't even strip this district from what we call 911 when we had fire coming up Lakeshore. I still had a truck available for 911. In 27 years, I've never stripped it.
NoGal does help back you up.
Okay, NoGal is what we call our sister department. They're on automatic aid. So as soon as a fire alarm comes up, we start listening. Okay, what we're really waiting for, and like I said, these 40 something, which we may get 10 or 12 at 3 AM on a snowy, cold night, that say, hey, the first one that gets on scene and determines that, say, hey, we have a full working structure fire. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm bringing in NoGal with an automatic. So they're automatically based, so they're headed this way. 9 times out of 10, if it's from Highway 220 this way, I'm bringing Ruidoso this way. If it's that way, I'm bringing Captain this way. So it's automatic that we call all these fire departments already, because even though we're still coming, we got all the trucks coming, I'm still going to use them to back us up and back up our 911 system. That's just the way the world works.
So you won't be left out.
No. But if I'm working, you may not get. You'll get him.
Hey.
Okay, I've heard the difference between structure fire and wildfire.
Right.
Okay. like the South Fork.
Wildfire.
That's, yeah, so is it considered a wildfire even though it's burning all the houses?
Yes.
That's called the urban interface fire.
Alright.
Okay, so urban interface is big in our, I mean, I've been training on urban interface for 44 years. Urban interface is pretty much worldwide now. Urban interface, look at California right now. And that's really not even urban interface, that's strictly pretty much urban. There is not a whole lot of interface between the mountains and the beach on that 27 miles of $1 million homes that burned down. You know what I mean? So, urban interface, we build our fire department around urban interface. We're all cross-trained in urban interface. We even build our trucks urban interface. So 2 of our class A's are what we call interface engines. So it can deal with either fire at either time. So yes, so it's just it's just the way of the world. Everything is in the interface in our world, right?
Go back a little bit to Firewise, because I think you mentioned that Firewise doesn't really impact our insurance.
Firewise, okay, so Firewise, and I've been doing Firewise for 40 plus years. That's the company I built, that's my company that I've done for 40 years.
It doesn't affect the ISO.
Oh,
It doesn't affect the ISO. When you become a Firewise community, I've been sitting in Alto for 3 separate times over the last 10 years for this. Okay, so Firewise is a label that is put on this community and this community only. Okay, so this label does not transfer over to Sun Valley. It does not transfer, Ruidoso is Firewise, but it don't transfer to Rainmaker or right now Sunterra is 2 years into making their Firewise program work. Okay, so Firewise is a program that's a national program that you have to kind of adopt as a community to say, we're going to become a Firewise community. This program is just, you don't just get to adopt it and say, okay, we're Firewise, come look at us. No, that's not the way it works. So the way this program went, they'll come in, and actually I will probably be the one to come in through the state forestry, and they're going to show you how this program works. You have to have somebody, and I believe he's the new guy, I'm sorry to throw you under the bus, but he actually has to say, okay, out of 3,000 homeowners or lots in Alto Village, we were able to clear 35 of them to the Firewise standard. Okay, he has to send that paperwork up. They're not going to deem you Firewise until you have that certain percentage where it's starting to look done. And then they'll label you a Firewise community. So in that Firewise, so like, and I'm just going to talk about Ruidoso. Ruidoso, when I was working for Ruidoso, we adopted this program over 20 years ago. And now today, they're one of the top Firewise programs in the world because they actually made it a code. They will literally take you to court. There has not been one court case won against a municipal judge under the Firewise program. If they tell you they want these trees thinned, you have to thin them. You can take them to court, but there hasn't been a court case won yet. So they actually have meat to make their people thin their property. That's where we out here don't have it, because we can't tell Mrs. Smith down the road that bought this house and she lives in Texas and she don't have a tree on the 300 acres she owns and she bought this place with the trees. We can't, it's hard to tell her to say, hey, we got to take half your trees down and make you a Firewise community. We don't have any of that meat to back it up and say, we're making you thin this property. She's just saying, nope, I'm not going to thin my trees in, and she won't talk to you again, and she don't have to.
So
because the county doesn't have anything in place.
a certain percentage today of Ruidoso homes have the Firewise standard.
Almost 100% of Ruidoso homes have
Why
it.
so many?
Because we've already been through this cycle for over 10 years. They have a 10 year.
I asked this because we own a cabinet, Ruidoso.
And you got a
And we bought it
certificate
in
of compliance.
2017, and we never had to clear it, but when we sold it in 2022, the village would not let us sell it until they came out and marked the trees
Orange.
and said, you need to get these trees cut down.
And
Now,
then-
we were in the rental pool too, which they told us it was flagged because we were in the rental pool, but we cut tons of trees down, And that cabin withstood this fire on Sandia Road, and none of those other houses on that road did.
Right.
And I think it's because they came out and we cleared like crazy to sell it.
And you got what they call the certificate of compliance, that's
We did.
good for 10 years. So like the village, in 10 years, your certificate comes up, so it comes back on their computer, they're gonna send you a letter that says you have to re-comply.
And was the reason so many homes burned in this last fire because of the wind? Because
The wind is a driving factor.
the wind wasn't right.
You can't put a fire out when it's blowing 50,
Right.
60, 70 miles an hour.
And then-
You just can't do it.
This fire got big in country that we can't get to.
Right.
I mean, this fire started 3 miles past the reservation line of Club Verdoso in South Polk Canyon. There was a shot crew on it within 2 hours, don't get me wrong, they were there. We had helicopters on it within 2 hours. We had air tankers on order that were coming in. Everything was working in the right way until, Mother Nature deemed it wasn't gonna take effect that day. And then this thing just got so big. Once these things get so big, where does it come out? This fire actually came this way, it came out way up into Ski Run Road. That's where this fire first made its big run up there. And we just kind of brought it down and it ended up, the last run was actually down Gavel and through, and it actually come up that line of Burns' property down off of, Eagle Ridge. That was the last one. So we had 5 heads that hit us that night. You were head number 3. That come right through, right down the it. So you ran dead center of this fire. So, when they get that big, you just, somebody got some great ideas of how to put that out. That's what we're. We're talking fire a mile wide and 150 foot tall, you just don't do much. Yes.
So to make lot clearing enforceable in this community up here, this is, the mechanism has to come through the county.
No.
You come through,
They
that
come
man
through
that was sitting right over
Yeah,
there.
the guy up at the top, yeah.
Yeah,
They
it
can't
can
come
come
through
through
your
here,
own ordinances.
but it has to be done in y'all's HOA.
Right.
That means all, how many members are there? All 2,300 members have to vote on it and it's gotta pass. That would be great. But you gotta do that to put meat, you gotta have some meat to it. Because it doesn't do any good for Mrs. Smith to say, okay, I'm clearing my property. I just did one down off of Screaming Eagle, it's like 104, 106. I went through that lady's house, it goes right up to her house. I'd already thinned it before she went through and I took more trees out yet. Her house is pretty close to Firewise standard. She did it on her own. She didn't ask for nothing, she said, I want it done. Her gravel, her backyard is all gravel. We put gravel all the way around her house. She's got stucco house, metal, the whole 9 yards. She went through the whole program. And, but she did it on her own. But the house right this side and the house right this side are untouched. There's dead trees hanging, the deck in the back is falling off of this house. So it doesn't help unless we do it in these large blocks of subdivision of area get done. One little spot in the middle of this mess that hit us isn't gonna make a difference. Right. And then Lakeshore was so bad. Lakeshore is what we would call ideal prime to burn. South facing slope, heavily loaded with timber, wood debris on the ground, grasses. The warmest slope of the day, the wind pushing right up that slope, it was ideal. I mean, that's ideal. This slope on this side, not so ideal. That's why we caught that fire so easy going downhill on Stable, that spot fire we had at midnight that night. You know what I mean? But that slope is ideal to burn. And that's same way with Verdoso, California, South Carolina, and Washington State. South-facing aspects are ideal to burn. Heavily loaded, heavily wooded, lots of stuff to burn, and steep.
I had a question, Robert.
Yes.
So
we're talking Firewise, cut trees. We know the grasses need to be cut. A
Okay,
lot of
that's
the
not
trees,
all of them.
a lot of the
Firewise
trees
is a
have,
big
okay,
program.
what about the high canopy trees?
High canopy, so Firewise is gonna have you break those canopies apart. So, I mean, literally in Ruidoso, I cut trees for a living, y'all don't know. I literally take down these massive old growth trees because there's just too many of them and the canopies are together. Okay, but you gotta trim up the bottom, you gotta mow the grass, they're looking for, unburnable vegetation, within 30 feet around your home. They're looking for full vegetation within 4 feet around your home. All those little pockets under your decks, your eaves, everywhere have to be sealed, have to be covered with a stainless steel mesh. What else am I missing? Oh, egress and access, that's big on Firewise. A lot of these little driveways that everybody has, that shoots you out right there. You gotta have a driveway that my biggest truck can fit down, turn around and come out. So, I mean, subdivision,
We're pretty good
building
drivers.
construction, it's gotta be non-flammable all the way around the outside. So we're talking like metal, hardy backer. We're not talking shake shingle, wood shingle, composition roof, nothing. It's all metal, it's all non-flammable. So Firewise is a big program. It's not just talking about the trees, it's talking about the entire lot, structure, subdivision, and all.
And what's the recommended distance from your house? Like how close could a tree be to your house that's gonna be Firewise?
So on Firewise, they don't have a distance from the house, so like if you have a stimulated tree within 2 or 3 feet from your house, it's fine, but it has to be trimmed at least 10 to 15 feet above your house. So if that tree is within that canopy where that canopy is there, the whole tree goes away. State Farm just implemented their new insurance. I don't know how many of y'all have State Farm, but right now, if there's a tree within 6 feet of your house, you are eligible to be canceled from your insurance. That's the stem and everything. Okay, so it's gotta be 6 feet away. Their canopies, they want broke at least 15 feet apart. They're still looking at 4 to 5 trees per clump at 15 feet, which Firewise is only 10 feet. And so, yeah, State Farm has taken one more bigger bite than Firewise did out of what they want you to be around your home.
That's
So
where
if you have an insurance agent that says, hey, I'm gonna come visit your home, be prepared. Cause
Is
it can
that
drop
our new
you.
policies, like those of us who are just getting renewed every year, they're not gonna drive around and come check your house, right?
They might.
Yeah, very well.
They
So
might.
State Farm here has one kid, his name is Corey, you know him. I think it's Corey.
Put you on the spot. Just to
to
put you on the spot.
I think his name is Corey. He works for State Farm right here out of Greg Carey's office, and that's what his job is, to drive around and look at houses that are insured by State Farm and to see if they meet the State Farm code. So you could get a letter and say, hey, we drove by your house and it don't meet, so you can either make this meet within the next, and they're giving them like 20 days. I mean, I've got a lot of phone calls that say, I gotta have this done now. And, so, and then if you don't meet it, they'll cancel.
And see, originally, most people went through state forestry, what their regulations were for minimal space. And any tree within 10 feet of your home was considered part of your home. It's shady for one in the summertime. But now the insurance companies are starting to get into that wildland side because they lost so many structures and paid out so much. Insurance doesn't like that. They're getting more nitpicky, so I wouldn't necessarily just go by what state forestry says or what Firewise says. Firewise is better than what the state forestry regulation is. I go by what your insurance says, because, yeah,
And if
when
you want to be
they're
a
weak,
little
you can have
proactive with
insurance.
this, call your, if you want, call your insurance agent up and say, hey, this is where I live, I want you to come out and show me. And by doing that way, you being a little more proactive than letting them do it, they're allowed to give you more time to complete this process and say, okay, hey, I gotta trim these trees, I gotta cut this vegetation away and replace it with gravel, because I just went to one, the day before, when did it snow? I don't even know what day it is. So not yesterday, the day before yesterday, Monday, I went to a lady that lives on Pine Hill Trail, right up past 220. Her insurance agent, she called them up. She panicked because it's fire. She called them. They came out with her and met with her. And, she called me up yesterday to see if we could get to make sure that the truck would fit down her driveway and turn around. And her little maintenance guy had done an excellent job. They had cut the trees back. They had thinned it to the standard that they had. She had lined all of her deck, and she had a deck that wrapped all the way around her house with stainless steel mesh, very fine stainless steel mesh. Done all that. They had built these nice rock sidewalks all the way around her house and her garage, and had everything mowed neatly, tidy, and just so she could keep her insurance.
Don't you have to, is there a specific paint you have to put on the road with that?
I don't believe so.
That would be up to your insurance.
Yeah.
There is a non-flammable material that you can spray on them, but you have to do it anyway, right?
Yeah, I do it quite a bit. I want to sit down so these people aren't looking at my backside.
So,
Otherwise, the camera
I
was
was tired, so I never stood up. So yeah, there is some stuff that you can spray on wooden structures that helps the flammable limits of wood. But to make sure that you got every nook and cranny would be tough. Because guys, you gotta remember the thing that, if you look on the news today, tonight, when you get home, watch the world news, the thing that's burning these houses down in California is what we call ember wash or spotting potentials or spot fires. It's the wind is so great, these fires get up just millions of embers. If y'all were here the day that they crossed at Alto Cafe, it looked like a red river of embers just crossing the road. So that's what takes out. So they get up under all your little decks, your little holes, your little everything on your house. And the next thing you know, your house is gone, and with 60, 70 mile an hour winds, it's gone before we get there, you know what I mean? So, but that's what takes out a lot of these. If you look at this urban fire that's happening right now, the winds are so great, those 100 mile an hour Santa Ana winds, the ember wash, you can just see it going for blocks down the road. And you can't see nothing, so you can't even really tell. The smoke is so thick, you can't even tell your house is burning until you get right on it when these houses are fully involved.
So I've got a question. So our house has some flower beds in front. They're not overgrown or anything, they're just like bush here and some irises. Is that stuff? I
What
mean,
kind of vegetation is it? So if you, under this Firewise program, they have vegetation that specifically states that this vegetation is very fire retardant. Lilac, the purple lilac is one of the most prettiest plants we have up here, and it's one of the most fireproof plant I've ever seen. I've seen entire structures burn down, and this big lilac bush was standing there untouched. You know what I mean? So they actually have that. If you look on the internet, there's a ton of fire-resistant planting that you can plant around your house. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's out there.
Really?
I don't know if your railroad ties are the biggest killer.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Railroad ties are our number one. We had this house, and they called it something. What was that house?
I forget what they called it,
With the one with the tower.
it was
Yeah.
Stone Top.
We put that house out 4 times that night. 4 different sides. And finally, the last time it became involved, it was in the main house. We got there and they had literally laid this entire freaking wall that was, I don't know, how tall, 20 foot tall of railroad ties up, and then they stuccoed over it. And the fire got behind the stucco, and guys, I can't deal with that. I mean, and so we had to back off. But if you notice, we backed off and not one house around that burned, because I had about 35 firemen and about 10 trucks keeping that contained to that one structure. But railroad ties are our #1 killer on wildfire, because we'll put them out and you'll think that fire's out, and then 20 minutes later, the railroad ties are burning again. The railroad ties are burning again, you know?
And it's just like a wick, those people that have them outlining their driveway. It's
Yeah,
just a
it
wick.
goes right to your house.
The Cocobelli fire, we lost several homes just because of that.
The Little fire.
So I got something for you guys to tell about the one gentleman that buried all the trees on his driveway, and how the fire goes through the root systems, and how the fires can actually pop up 3-4 months later.
Zombie fires.
Okay. Tell them about that.
So these root fires, it'll burn the tree and it'll burn down into the roots. And it doesn't take a lot of oxygen just to keep the embers burning. And it'll burn for 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 weeks, and it'll just burn down in that root system. And eventually, even if we dug a fire line right by there, it could pop up 20 feet, 30 feet on the other side of that fire line and start another fire. And it has happened, not here, but it has happened in other communities where that was one of the main causes. It just burned underneath the ground. We have an area up there by Alpine Village that when they did the road system, they just dropped the trees down and covered it over with dirt. They use those trees as basically a height, to make it nice and smooth. Well, then the fire came through and it just burned underneath that road. What, 3 months, 4 months? We
Well, our last fire was
2 or 3 times a week.
December, right after Christmas.
Anyway, yeah, that's Christmas, yeah. So all summer long, we just kept going out, and the only way to put it out is to dig everything up and wet it all down and get it good and clean. You can't just pour water down that one little hole. It's burning back in there some more.
The bad thing was with that is, so I made we kind of forced him through county ordinance to get this done, so he hired a contractor. The contractor went out there and spent 2 days digging it up, and then he refused to pay the contractor. So the contractor's out $5,000, and just to do us a favor, and that guy will not pay him. So they took a big excavator out there and dug for 2 days to dig those trees up, and I talked to the contractor last week, and he said the guy refuses to pay me. So.
But railroad ties are in the same category. That house he's speaking of, there was the wall for the driveway was dirt, railroad ties, and when it burned, it looked like a catacombs up there, just nothing but black holes.
That's because they had the railroad ties holding it up.
Right, so they're all crisscrossed with 20 feet high and about.
So every railroad tie long, they put one in and buried it in dirt like a dead man to hold that wall up, and it was 20 foot tall. And
so has Reed also said any, the village said any?
yeah, you cannot put railroad ties against your home in the village rails.
And I've been speaking with the commissioners about an ordinance for no new construction. We can't make you go back and rip it all out.
Yeah.
But new construction forward, 10 feet away, 20 feet away, we haven't come to an agreement with the distances yet. But we're looking at that because railroad ties, they take up a lot of our time. The only way to stop it, get out of your truck and just pull the railroad tie in the middle of the road, so it's not touching anything else, and move on to the next. But you're constantly doing that instead of being more proactive on another house if the fire can be threatening. You're trying to stop that one, but you're spending a lot of manpower, a lot of time just stopping railroad ties.
And we're also new construction.
Right.
Any other questions? You guys got anything to add?
Well, thank you.
Y'all want to come help questions?
Fire, want to volunteer?
I have a question about whether you guys did anything special to save Alto Cafe.
No.
Or did it just happen to survive?
It just happened to
Like the
survive.
fireman didn't go wet it down or nothing special?
We stood there.
All that heavy grease.
That was kind of our meeting
That was our
point
safety
in the
zone.
area, but the only fire that they had in the whole place, that started in the area was, right between the cafe and the cabin below, and it was a stump hole, and that's the only burn spot they had on the whole place. Really? And then, yeah, we didn't do anything special, we didn't wet it down, everybody's like, no, it survived.
The owner actually got it burned
It
down.
was out there in the wide open, it had a whole parking lot around it.
Yeah.
Down below, it was all
The
mowed
roads, yeah.
and cleaned up, and then that guy down below it, that was all dirt, so it did have a big defensible zone around it.
Yeah.
But no.
We're thankful.
Yeah, we're all thankful.
You got a question?
Yeah, no, I had one. We really need to work for best we can with these. Robbie saved our home from the Logan fire. We were out of town, and everybody that called me said the fire was going on. I said, the home's gone. So him and his folks, and then they came out and worked with a lot of hot spots for a long time. these guys really, I've worked with volunteer fire departments in Texas. These guys are head and shoulders above anything I've ever seen in terms of volunteer fire department, how effective.
Well, we want to thank Robbie and Spence for coming out here. Something that's in the works. So the fundraiser we did last year, and to raise funds for the video fire department, you guys don't know this yet, but our ALPOA group, we have, and I've already talked to Tom and everything about it. We are now making it an annual event. It will be the night before the 4th of July parade. We are putting some stuff together to really start raising some funds because, let's face it, the more funds we can get for these guys, the more equipment we can get for our fire department, the more stuff we can do for us, the better off it's going to be for us in the long run as a community.
What are y'all talking about doing? Because if y'all do have events, my crew loves bringing.
Oh, we're gonna bring you guys. We're gonna bring everybody here. We'll bring everybody here.
So I mean, these guys live to drive fire trucks. We got a and so if you all have an event and you would like to see some of our folks, no matter what it is, let me or Spencer know, and we'll see if we can
What
get
about
around
something that we've kind of thought about too? What about if we do an open house at one of the fire stations?
You can do that too.
And we can do like a barbecue. Let everybody come and see what's going on.
Hey, if you come meet all of our people, we got some good people. We've got one that's been there 50+ years. That would be my brother. He lives at 132.
He's our next door neighbor.
He's the one that got me started in the fire business 44 years ago. And so he thought he was going to retire because actually he was our chief, and then Spencer took his job, and then I wouldn't let him retire. So he's still in it.
Mentioned to Tom too, Tom and Amy, one thing that came up in our meeting was doing a fundraiser golf tournament for the fire department. So maybe kind of keep that as an idea to throw around.
So if y'all know anybody that can make some good donations for the raffle auction, we had really good stuff last year, but I think we could easily double what we raised last year. So, you know, if you know anybody that's got some stuff to donate for this, we would love to have it. All right, Robbie, Spencer, thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.